My husband is an astronaut. He was sent home after eating lettuce grown in space. I used to live there. My husband pointed to the Centaurus constellation absent-mindedly. We were at the planetarium with our daughter Rihanna, our first family outing since Matthew was sent back home. "What did you say, Dad?" Rihanna asked, clearly immersed in the cosmos projected all above us. "What?" "I think I didn't say anything," Matthew replied. Someone in the back made a SHHH with the authority of a middle-aged librarian in turtle glasses. I tried to keep paying attention to the stars, Matt's element, but a sharp pain in my forehead told me that the constant motions in the fake sky were a trigger to my migraine. At least Rihanna seemed to love it. Space missions aren't as glamorous as science fiction makes it out to be. Matt is an expert at boring space jobs. He's never left the orbit of the Earth, and the last time I checked he was helping grow a batch of lettuce in space. I was never drawn to the unknown outside like him. Instead, I specialized in microbiology. When we married, we agreed I'd leave my job to stay with our children, since Matt would be constantly away for months. I never regretted my decision. We love Rihanna to bits and would do anything for her. I didn't question Matt being sent home, but I found it strange when 3 months went by and he didn't start talking excitedly about his future missions. Rihanna was so happy about her dad being home that I didn't have the heart to ask when he was leaving again. I noticed his behavior had been a little different since he last came back, but maybe it was only because we never spent that much time together before. Maybe that was the real Matt. Not that the changes were exactly bad, but some of them concerned me. Matt was more affectionate than usual, but a complete airhead, to the point of forgetting where he was or what he was doing during a mundane activity. And, just like that day in the planetarium, sometimes we'd watch a movie and he would get really anxious seeing the ocean or a volcano. Rihanna thought it was funny that Dad was such a scared cat. But Dad is brave. I told her. He was the first person to eat lettuces grown in the outer space. Right, honey? Yep. I ate most of it. I get so sick of astronaut food. Oh. I hate lettuce. It's full of worms, Rihanna replied, and we laughed. 5 months went by, and I started to worry Matt was laid off and didn't tell me. He kept forgetting everyday things. I was frugal and had significant savings, but I was raised to worry about my daughter's financial security a decade from now. I couldn't just ask if he was fired. It would destroy his pride. So there was only one way. I swear I didn't mean to snoop. But I had to know if something was wrong so I could help, right? I decided to call Laura, a bright and kind woman that worked in the mission control center. She had taken a liking to Matt, like he was her younger brother, and always told me that I could contact her if I needed anything at all while he was away. "Hi, it's Haruki, redacted, Matthew's wife," I introduced myself. She sounded surprised, then immediately asked if I was okay. "Yes, thank you. How are you?" "Haruki, listen, dear. I'd love to chat, but I have to tell you something." She lowered her voice. "How is Matthew? Has he been different? Violent?" "Different, yes. Airheaded. Won't talk about new missions. But not violent, no. He's sweet as ever." "That's a relief. I have to tell you something difficult." Laura took a deep breath. "Matthew is not only in between missions. He tried to kill a fellow astronaut and was sent home for good." What do you mean? Why, this is the first time hearing about it. 5 months. They sent a newly found mentally unstable aggressive man to his family, a woman barely heavier than 100 pounds and a little girl. The doctors said it was a temporary insanity caused by isolation, and it was safe sending him home. But I disagree. You have a daughter, for God's sake. Who knows what he can do, she sighed. I'll keep an eye on things as much as I can. You have some good savings, right? I confirmed. Money was the last thing on my mind But at least my daughter was safe for the next few years on that regard. I'm sorry, dear. Matthew is a nice boy. Let's hope it was a one-time thing. It was a one-time thing. At first, I was scared of my husband. I slept with a baseball bat with me, locked Rihanna in her bedroom for the night, and twitched every time he moved abruptly. When he asked why I was acting so weird, I made up some story about some men breaking and entering in my cousin's house. He didn't pursue the matter. He was too busy staring aimless at the ceiling for hours a day anyway. Still, whenever Rihanna and I interacted with him, he showered us with love, despite the lost look on his eyes most of the time. I had been losing sleep. I stayed perfectly still in bed for hours, while Matt slept soundly. That's probably the only reason why I was able to spot it. The thing poked from his ear, then, seemingly feeling safe, started slithering out of it. It was vaguely shaped like a vermin, but otherwise an incredibly wrong existence. It was darker than the darkness of our room, glistening slightly like it was wet, pulsating like a repulsive black hole. It had 3 protruding iridescent fangs where I assumed the mouth was. The fangs had been dipped in blood recently. I felt like retching for merely acknowledging its presence. It was absurd in every sense. The 4 inches of wrongness finally finished leaving Matt's ear, crawled fast to the floor, then blended seamlessly in the night. I didn't have the physical strength to scream, let alone go after it. Instead, I turned my body to the other side and vomited until I passed out. Hours later, Matt would shake me from my sleep in a pool of my own puke, worried that I was ill. The vomit was the only thing that assured me it all hadn't been a dream. I screamed in panic. Matthew quickly dropped Rihanna at his sister's and took me to the hospital. I asked him to get a checkup regarding his memory loss while we were there. I must have looked terminally sick because he immediately complied with my every request, reassuring me he was there for me. After a long day of needles and forth, I was good as new. A nurse with a stern face entered my bedroom. "Sorry, Mrs. Redacted, but we need to talk about your husband's MRI. We never saw anything like it. It seems there are over a dozen of worms inside his brain." It took me a while to process it. I still hadn't had the time to think about everything, but I guess deep down I was hoping that Matt would be fine after that thing left his ear. "Wow, are you sure?" was the only answer I could muster. "We are sure there's some abnormality, but more tests are necessary." As I said, this is unprecedented. Has Mr. Redacted been somewhere in hospital? I shook my head no, but of course I knew. My daughter's voice echoed inside my head. "I hate lettuce, it's full of worms." As I tried to keep a straight face, I heard a commotion outside my bedroom. Screams of panic and pain. "What is it? I can't see anything, fuck." It bit me. It crawled inside my ear. "Don't open the door," I yelled at the nurse. "Get my phone on my purse. I'll tell you something uncanny." I called Laura, and she promised help was coming. Then I explained the nurse what little I knew about the situation. The space-grown lettuce, Matt trying to kill his co-worker shortly after eating it, how weird he was for months. The vermin that didn't look like anything I ever saw on Earth. Some men in black arrived in less than 20 minutes. Unfortunately, it wasn't fast enough, and at least 6 nurses had to be put down. Everyone in the hospital was tested by them, and only worm-free people were released. The infected stayed. The hospital closed shortly after, and Laura let slip that all the surviving nurses were scattered across the country. No one ever told me what happened to Matt. They eventually sent me a death certificate ruling his death as accident on duty and a generous widow's pension. When I was finally released from the hospital, I told Matt's family, as instructed, that he was on an urgent call. The news of his death only came a week after. They were devastated, of course. But not Rihanna. Rihanna had lost eyes and was absent-minded. I couldn't bring myself to let them put down my daughter, not after having lost so much already. Instead, we never leave home. Rihanna is always on a leash in case she gets violent like her father did. I'm not sure if a single worm can still infect other people, but sometimes I pray I become like them too, so everything is finally over. I feel something watching me by the windows at night. Every day it gets closer, and I swear I've been catching a glimpse of an iridescent glistening lately. Everything in the universe returns to stardust in the end, right?